Hey guys, I'm Anna.
And I'm Brian.
And we are
Those Annoying Vegans. Good morning, the YouTubes.
Good morning.
We are here with our breakfast. We have a lovely bowl of oats, nuts, seeds, and fruit. Not too dissimilar from our super oatmeal recipe. Actually, it's kind of different.
Yeah.
It's got blueberries and bananas.
The great thing about oatmeal is you always vary it up.
Yeah.
It tastes different every day.
That's right. We got chia seed, flax seed. We got peanuts instead of peanut butter this time. Because, peanut butter, it comes in sometimes plastic packaging or glass packaging. It's a little more eco-friendly to just go with the raw peanuts and less processed, I guess. Bon appetit, my angel.
Bon appetit. It's so soothing on these cold. I know. Y'all in Wisconsin are like, be quiet.
You two are wearing short sleeve t-shirts.
I mean, California winters are just slightly chilly. And
it gets as cold as 41 degrees Fahrenheit.
Once you get used to it being super hot all the time, that feels cold. So.
That's right.
But I know. I grew up in Boston. I know. I also grew up in Costa Rica. So I have both sides of the situation.
And speaking of hot temperatures, today's video is about Primal Edge Health, who lives in Ecuador. For those of you who haven't seen it, which is probably zero of you because it was a huge story, Joaquin Phoenix recently won Best Actor for his performance of the Joker, and he dedicated his entire acceptance speech to speaking up for the animals. He didn't thank an agent, a family member, a director, a manager. He just went straight in and used his platform to speak for the animals in such an amazing way. I mean, I think we were floored.
It was probably the first time in history that that's ever happened.
Yeah.
And for those of you who are watching, and hopefully with non-vegans in the room, as were we, it was such a moment of satisfaction.
It's crazy.
I mean, one of the people in the room who is not yet vegan literally said, "Wow."
I mean, I was kind of expecting if he had just stopped at the, no matter what race, no matter what gender, no matter what nation, no matter what species, we don't have the right to exploit one another, with impunity, or however he phrased it. That's the type of veganism injection that I expect from a speech like that. But he went full on and said that we feel entitled to artificially and forcefully inseminate a cow, take her baby, and then take the milk that was intended for her baby. It was amazing activism on his part.
Yep, very, very admirable. And needless to say, of course, that's made some people quite upset, especially dairy farmers.
Yep.
They tend to get triggered.
Even though Joaquin Phoenix was not insulting or saying that dairy farmers are the problem, he was saying that dairy is the problem, the industry of dairy.
And really, it's us who's the problem, society, for buying it in the first place. Farmers are just there to supply it. And if you stop buying it, you have to switch to something else.
It also apparently triggered this gentleman here, Primal Edge Health. For those of you that don't know Primal Edge Health, his name's Tristan. As I said, he lives in Ecuador with his family. I guess they run a small farm. He's a carnivore YouTuber. He's also a carnivore Instagrammer. He has an Instagram account. He put out a video called "Milk is So Mean, Joaquin Phoenix 2020 Oscars Vegan Clown Speech Reaction, Family Farmer Response." We are not terribly familiar with his content. I personally have seen him debate a few vegans on YouTube. So this is the first time we've ever watched a Primal Edge Health video from start to finish. So let's check it out and see what he has to say.
Rejoice! The Hollywood Pedocracy has given us yet another award ceremony where virtue-signaling celebrities can name-drop social justice rhetoric and cue the audience to clap on command as they lecture the world, us unwashed masses, us normal working people who don't really understand the problems in the world as well as these celebrities do, where they can lecture us on how we should live, what we should do with our bodies, and how we should eat. Right, so
you're assuming that celebrities aren't hardworking.
I mean,
it's quite the contrary.
It's incredibly difficult to become successful in show business.
Yeah, some people are born into it, but for the most part, It takes a lot of hard work.
It's many, many years of
lot of hard work.
sacrifice and dedication to get to where these people are.
What is so wrong with using your platform to inspire others? I mean, why is it interpreted as virtue signaling? That's assuming you know the person. That's assuming you think the person is being egotistical. Even if they were, they're still inspiring millions of people to take kind action.
In fact, if you have such a loud voice, you actually have a responsibility. Primal Edge Health, for example, he has over 100,000 subscribers on his YouTube channel. Very loud voice. But he's using his voice to spread the message that needlessly murdering animals for their flesh every single day for every single meal is morally acceptable. Joaquin is using his platform to say maybe we should stop doing that. Just needlessly murdering other creatures because they're a different species.
Joaquin Phoenix was given a Golden Idol for his work in The Joker. Right, now, this is not a hit piece on Joaquin Phoenix. I don't hate Joaquin Phoenix. In fact, I feel pretty bad for this dude. We'll get into why. Let's hear what Joaquin's got to say. Let's go through his acceptance speech and we can make some critiques as we listen. I'm not going to be able to show the whole video, but we can listen to it.
I'm full of so much gratitude right now. And I do not
Look at his eyes.
elevated above any of my fellow nominees or anyone in this room.
Ad hominem?
Because we share the same love, the love of film. And this form of expression has given me the most extraordinary life.
Okay, so he doesn't feel above anybody in that room. None of the social climbers, Hollywood celebrities that are in this room. He doesn't feel above any of them. But
He might or he might not. What's it to you? Who cares?
Usually you take people at their word until they prove themselves otherwise. But again, this is also assuming that everyone in the room is an A-list actor. This room is filled with hairstylists, costume designers, cinematographers, set designers.
Maybe even seat fillers.
Yeah, seat
background
fillers,
artists.
ushers, editors, sound mixers. Like,
The orchestra.
yeah, the guy playing the trombone under the stage. The guy wearing the headset backstage, taking people to and from the podium. It's not a room full of A-list celebrities. They put the A-list celebrities down front in the first row.
Yeah, but guess who you don't see? Up in the balconies. Everyone else.
But funny how he doesn't mention us, the unwashed masses, who he's about to preach to. Right? He doesn't feel above Leonardo DiCaprio.
I don't get this unwashed masses thing. Who are these unwashed masses? Like,
If you just mean normal, hardworking people, again, they're in the room.
and they're watching from every corner of the world.
And he knows he's got millions of eyeballs on him. He's in front of a camera.
He doesn't feel above who else? Roman Polanski and whatever other degenerates are in this crowd here. He doesn't feel above them. But does he feel above you?
I mean, you call these people degenerates, and you're saying that you have a problem with him feeling above everyone else. You're calling them degenerates. What does that say about you?
Everyone in the room, by the way.
And I?
I don't know what I'd be without it. But I think the greatest gift that it's given me, and many of us in this room, is the opportunity to use our voice for the voiceless.
All right, so the opportunity to use our voice for the voiceless. Okay, not so bad so far. What is he talking about here? Who are the voiceless? Is he talking about all these kids getting passed around the casting couches of Hollywood? Is he talking about the children who are being treated very, very poorly, right, to say it nicely, in Hollyweird, in this pedocracy of Hollywood? Is he talking about kids like his former co-star from Stand By Me, or his brother's former co-star in Stand By Me, Corey Feldman, talks about child abuse, we'll say, being rampant and one of the biggest problems in Hollywood? Is he talking about that? Is he talking about victims of human trafficking? No. He's talking about chickens, crickets, and cows. He's talking about the mean, nasty, naughty farmers. He's talking about...
Your words, not his.
He didn't say mean, nasty, naughty farmers. And
He actually didn't mention farmers
he
at
didn't
all.
say farmers at all.
He is talking about the animals. They cannot defend themselves against the oppression that we subject them to.
Much like children. Children cannot give consent in the same way animals cannot give consent. So as Joey Carbstrong says, you should defend animals the same way that you defend children. Now he's bringing up pedophilia, child abuse, trafficking, human trafficking. This is just like what Cosmic Skeptic said in a recent speech. The reason veganism is a moral emergency is because if you just poll 100 people on the sidewalk, ask them how they feel about human trafficking, how many people do you think would support it? I'm going to say 0. Now, if you poll those same 100 people and ask them how they feel about needlessly killing animals for food, how many of them would not only support that, but they would actually argue with you and fight for it?
This is a normalized form of violence that has been going on for thousands of years, and we are now at an age where we don't need to participate in it anymore. It is 2020.
And if you want to speak up against pedophilia and human trafficking and child abuse, you can be vegan and do all 3 of those things.
And you certainly have a platform to do so, but all I see on your Instagram is how you're eating shitloads of veal and kidney and milk and yogurt that you made yourself. Like, what are you using your platform for? Sell your books?
Sell his coaching plans too.
Yeah.
Talking about the animals that all the naughty, nasty farmers are abusing out there. And he uses the word voice for the voiceless, and he's actually referencing...
By the way, there are farmers who abuse their animals. Many, many, many cases have been documented, so don't pretend they don't exist.
But isn't needlessly killing an animal against his or her will, isn't that abuse in and of itself?
I'm pretty sure he knows that he's referencing them. He is referencing this group, Anonymous Voice for the Voiceless. You can see their really cool logo right there. The kind of square.
Carnivore versus vegan. It looks like he likes to watch a lot of vegan versus carnivore stuff. Joey Carbstrong's there in the background.
Yeah. Well, he's a carnivore YouTuber. So.
Yeah.
Compass looking logo. And what is this group? Well, they stand around with Guy Fawkes masks, not understanding the historical significance of Guy Fawkes, the gunpowder plot, and or any of this. They stand around with these Guy Fawkes masks and show slaughterhouse footage to people walking on the streets. And they're giving a voice to the voiceless, right? Because
facts. They are.
That's what they do. And the reason they wear the Guy Fawkes mask is so that it separates the viewer from the person holding the screen. It sort of focuses your attention on the screen. Because if I were standing here holding a television screen with no mask, as human beings, our tendency is to look people in the eye.
And it feels uncomfortable being watched.
It's to separate the viewer from the activist and focus on the footage.
Yeah, and it could have been any other mask, but the Guy Fawkes mask happens to have a political connotation to rebellion.
I've actually seen some AV groups just use a plain white mask too. I mean, the Guy Fawkes mask is common, but I have seen some groups just have like just a white doll mask.
apparently the animals want them to be advocating for them.
Wouldn't you?
I mean,
if you even looked at the footage, have you? You would know, you could deduce as an intelligent human being, that I know you are, that those animals are fighting for their lives, that they do not want to be in those situations. So I would say that yes, they would want someone to step in and help them.
I mean, in the same way that if a child is being abused, how likely is it for that child to speak up to an adult and tell them that another adult is abusing them? It's very easy to manipulate children in the same way it is very easy to manipulate animals. So animals need someone to stand up for them. They can't fight back. They're defenseless. They are voiceless. They need us as people who care. Like if you're an animal lover, if you care about animals and you won't speak up for this, then who will?
And mind you, voiceless is also a figure of speech because animals are not voiceless. They voice their pain and suffering very, very, very vividly, but we choose not to listen.
All right, let's go on.
I've been thinking a lot about some of the distressing issues that we are facing collectively. And I think at times
All right, so here it is, the distressing issues that we're facing collectively right now. Anybody who's watched this channel long enough, if you've checked out the stream I did with Jay Dyer, Clubbing for the Climate was the episode. We talked about the Club of Rome, the book The First Global Revolution, where it forms what they call the world problématique. Right? This world global problem, they postulate in this book, will require a global solution. And they decide in this book that the problem would be climate change, global warming, and the like, because this would make humanity itself the enemy. And so on page 75 of the Club of Rome's First Global Revolution, they have an infamous quote about humanity itself being the enemy. And so this global problem requiring a global solution is a ruse that has been used time and time again to make nations fall into line in order to control human behavior. What these people are essentially pushing is a depopulation agenda. They want to reduce the human population, the Club of Rome. And it's funny that we see so many celebrities constantly pushing out this same rhetoric about all the global problems.
How does any
I
of
don't
this
know.
have to do with what he just said? Because it's a complete non sequitur. Like, he is putting words into Joaquin's mouth. All he said was,
I've been thinking a lot about some of the distressing issues that we are facing collectively.
and now we're talking about the Club of Rome.
Some guy wrote a book, and in that book it says a thing, so this is somehow related to a global... He seems very conspiracy theory-y. Maybe that's part of his appeal. Maybe his viewers like conspiracy theories, but literally Joaquin Phoenix is about to talk about the dairy industry, and this guy's talking about a book that some guy wrote
About depopulating the world.
About all the global problems. The media is constantly telling us about these problems, right? You got the evil dictator Saddam Hussein. You've got the nasty, naughty Taliban, right? You've got Iran. Oh my goodness, you got Muammar Gaddafi. Big, bad, tyrant dictators. These are global problems. They're creating problems and instability in the region, and we've got to go in there with a solution. Now, the new war is not on Saddam Hussein. The new war is not on Muammar Gaddafi. The new war is not against the people of Libya or Syria. The new global war is against the human population in general. And this war is waged on behalf of the big money interests who fund all of this, who fund mass media.
Like the Vanity Fair magazine that you bought?
Yeah, hold on one second. Big mass media is funding a war against humanity itself in an attempt to depopulate the world so that less people can buy their What the are you talking about? There's a mass media conspiracy to depopulate the world so that we'll have fewer customers.
How does that make sense?
If you're a Primal Edge Health viewer, please let us know in the comments below. Is this part of his appeal? Like, do you like the conspiracy theories? Is that what it is? It's not really about the carnivore diet. It's about just...
People like to think that they're the victims. We see a lot of, oh, the world is out to get me sort of mentality. And I don't know, I think it feeds into people's sort of like need to not take responsibility for their own actions.
If you had not been born, Tristan, you wouldn't have bought that Vanity Fair magazine. And you wouldn't be buying your internet subscription, and you wouldn't be watching all these videos.
Who fund these magazines, these television shows.
You fund the magazine, you bought
And
it.
push their agendas and the worldview that they want you to have via this medium.
Even if he didn't buy it, because we're assuming he bought it, he's still consuming the information in it. He's still consuming the ads, whether he likes it or not. That's just the way ads work.
Feel or we're made to feel that we champion different causes. But for me, I see commonality. I think whether we're talking about gender inequality or racism or queer rights or indigenous rights or animal rights, we're talking about...
This makes you look so jealous.
Yeah.
It just makes you look jealous and immature. Like, you're a grown man. So what's wrong with him speaking up for gay rights and indigenous rights and women's rights? What's wrong with him speaking up for human rights?
Mm-hmm.
What's wrong with that? What's inherently wrong with that? It's almost like you're triggered, but I don't know why yet. I'm trying to figure it out, because who would react that way when someone is spreading a positive message? What could it be that is conflicting inside of you?
And the other thing too is, like, if you're doing the mocking applause that a high schooler would do in a YouTube video, because in your opinion, you know, speaking up for queer rights and indigenous rights and human rights is basic and everyone should already agree with it, so why even speak up for those things? Because it's obvious we should all be in agreement with that.
Not all people are.
Yeah, not all people are, first of all. But if that's the angle that you're taking, then Joaquin's message makes even more sense, because when he speaks up for animal rights, we assume that's where you have a problem. And that's where most people have a problem. So everyone is already in agreement that human rights should be afforded to people. But not everyone is in agreement that animal rights should be afforded to all non-human animals.
Oh, so that's what it might be, is that he is preempting his speaking about all of this is this preemptive reaction, because he's already watched the video. He already knows that he's going to talk about cows and dairy. So this is sort of like, let's bring him down on every other aspect too.
We're talking about the fight against injustice.
So indigenous rights, queer rights, women's rights, it's the same as animal rights, right? Because we're all just animals, right? So Joaquin Phoenix...
We are.
We are, literally.
People don't believe it. It's
We're
so
animals.
funny. It's like science.
What are we, plants? Are we fungi? Are we bacteria? We're clearly animals. We're mammals. We belong to the order primates. We're half a chromosome away from a chimpanzee. We're literally mammals.
Right? So Joaquin Phoenix over here saying that women, what do you say, queer people, they're just the same as animals. Just like that PETA ad said, right? Just like RZA said in his PETA ad as well. We are all the same. Yo, bon bon, yo, Wu-Tang is for the children. We are all the same, yo. Right,
I don't know how he's deducing that, but I don't think what we're saying is that we are all the same, because we are not. Sameness and equality are different. We are not the same as a butterfly, who is not the same as a cow, who is not the same as a dolphin. That's obvious, but we all have the same basic needs and desire for survival. We know that animals can experience joy and pain and fear and anxiety. Because we know that they experience similar feelings, if not the same feelings we do, then shouldn't they be deserving of equal treatment, an equal consideration for their desire to live a peaceful life, free of torture and suffering and exploitation?
This message is consistently being pushed to form your worldview so that you believe that you're just a beast.
About the fight against the belief that...
Okay, I don't know, just a beast. So he's using the word beast, which is actually poorly defined. You look up the definition of the word beast. A four-footed mammal is distinguished from a human being, a lower vertebrate, an invertebrate, which...
A lower animal.
Vertebrate. A lower animal, yeah. Animals as distinguished from a plant, that would be us.
An animal under human control.
Yeah, so it's a vague word. I don't know why human beings have this feeling like we're above other animals, morally speaking. I'm saying, we already said we're different. You know, I don't have a hoof on my hand. I have fingers. I don't have a beak. We can point out, we can make a list of all the differences between animals. But we are animals, and you know, as Bill Nye said in his debate with Ken Ham when he was taking the ARC tour, I take issue with the word just. Like, what do you mean we're just an animal? I think being an animal is amazing. We are alive, we are conscious, we are sentient, we are here on this planet at this moment in the universe's history. 13-point-some-odd billion years went by, and here's planet Earth, and here we are, alive today. We are one of the ways in which the universe has come to know itself. We are literally stardust. And yes, we are animals, just as non-human animals are animals. And we're all here on this planet together. I don't think that deserves a just, like, oh, you're just a pig, or you're just a cow. Like, what's that? That implies that there's something fundamentally wrong with being a pig or a cow. And a pig or a cow had no choice but to be born a pig or a cow, just as you and I and Anna and everyone else had no choice but to be born who we are.
Against the belief that one nation, one people, one race, one gender, or one species has the right to dominate, control, and use and exploit another with impunity.
To say this in this room, how ironic.
In the natural world.
Why?
People make movies and they hope you go buy a ticket.
To say that from your chair is ironic, because all I see on your Instagram is you exploiting animals for your benefit. So you can follow a diet that you think is healthy. Oh, because the mass media didn't influence that.
And many of us, what we're guilty of is an egocentric worldview, the belief that we're the center of the universe. We go...
How ironic to be saying this in this room. This egocentric worldview. You guys all have too much ego. All you unwashed masses out there, you think you're the center of the universe. You think you are so important. But you're just the same as a rat. You're just the same as a cricket, he's telling you. Just like PETA says.
I thought he was saying before that he was saying that the unwashed masses weren't
being talked to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now they are being talked to. And again, you're just the same as a rat. No, you're not the same as a rat, but a rat is a mammal, and we are mammals, and we are animals. We're here on this planet.
And a rat does not want to be killed needlessly.
Yeah.
Just like I don't want to be killed needlessly.
The natural world, and we plunder it for its resources. We feel entitled to artificially inseminate a cow, and when she gives birth, we steal her baby, even though her cries of anguish are unmistakable. And then we take her milk that's intended for her calf, and we put it in our coffee and our cereal.
So this is the biggest problem in the world, guys. Mother cows are being separated from their calves. Their calves are being stolen, and their milk is getting jacked. Right? First of all, this guy has no idea what he's talking about. So we've got...
He doesn't? Because that's common knowledge.
Joaquin is literally just listing 3 facts. Cows are artificially inseminated, we take the baby away from the mother cow, and then we steal the milk that was intended for the calf to sell to human beings. Those are 3 facts about the dairy industry. Humans do that.
There are plenty of YouTube videos where you can see like instructional videos of farmers showing you how to inseminate cows.
I'm going to take my pointed fingers into the rectum of the cow. Now entering the gun through the open lips of the vulva. I have also now palpated the cervix.
I mean, these aren't even videos that they would consider abusive. They just put them out there to show what they're doing.
Almost with pride.
Standard industry practice. You know, farmers like to say that a lot, that we don't know what we're talking about. Oh, you city folk, you don't know what you're talking about.
Being activists, they don't know the truth.
Yeah, as if I grew up in Costa Rica. I'm familiar with the smaller dairy farms. I'm also familiar with the big conglomerate dairy farm like Dos Pinos, who supplies dairy to every corner of the country. And those dairy farms operate differently than your small dairy farm. And we have been to the factory farms here in California. There are many. If you drive along the 5, if you go to Ontario, it is cow country. And we have seen with our very own eyes things like this. This will probably be one of the most impactful videos I show you guys. Look at this. They are hoisting a downed cow with a tractor right now before my very eyes. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Those were videos I shot. And as you all know, we have spent quite a bit of time outside of these slaughterhouses, and we've watched the pregnant dairy cows come in. And they're pregnant most of the time because cows are kept perpetually pregnant and they're not checking. In fact, they get more money for heavier cows. Many of these slaughterhouses also profit from fetal bovine serum, which you can only get from the beating heart of a cow fetus to sell to big pharma. And these fetuses end up in the dumpsters, and we have seen that with our own eyes. So when you say that people like Joaquin Phoenix, who by the way also holds vigil outside of Farmer John's slaughterhouse regularly, you don't know what you're talking about.
Joaquin also narrated Earthlings. He also narrated Dominion. He has seen the footage from inside these factory farms, as I'm sure you have seen the footage from inside these factory farms, because you're a smart guy. You've been on YouTube a long time. You've debated a lot of vegans. I'm sure you know what Anonymous for the Voiceless is. I am sure that you have seen this footage.
And people will often say like, oh, this footage, those are extreme cases. That doesn't happen everywhere. But there is so much of it. It's one video is too much. One video would be too much. And there are so many videos all over the internet of this kind of abuse, going on all over the world. So don't you think it would be kind of a huge coincidence that people who are infiltrating these facilities happen to catch abuse happening? But the reason there are so many videos is because it's happening all the time, everywhere.
So we've got 3 cows. Our milk-producing cow is producing milk right now, who we milk each day, once a day. We separate...
So every day you go and fondle your cow's breasts for milk. You are an adult human and you are still drinking breast milk From another species, mind you, a much lesser species.
And you've got 3 cows, and you milk one of your cows once a day.
That
sure sounds like it's going to feed all of the United States and Canada and Australia and Western Europe and China and India and everywhere else that they drink milk.
Yeah.
The calf from the mother. And let me tell you why. If you don't separate the calf from the mother and control when they feed and make sure that they get enough milk, very often the mother will either reject the calf and not feed it, not give it any milk. This happens very often. They'll kick, they won't let the baby suckle, or other cows will come and take all the colostrum and take all the milk. Now we got 3 cows. One of them is less than a year old. I think she's like maybe 9 months old right now. The second and third day after this calf was born, this little bull calf that we have here, we noticed that if we didn't separate the yearling from the milk producing cow, that the younger cow would take the milk that was there for the calf.
Isn't that weird? Isn't it weird
bizarre.
that all these things are happening when the environment that these cows are living in is unnatural to them? You are going in there and fondling a cow's breast, and they know that it's not a calf down there. But isn't it strange? Like farmers like to say this a lot, oh, cows are not good mothers. If you don't go in there and separate them, they're going to kick their babies, they're going to step on their babies,
cows are real pieces of
Yeah. Isn't it weird though that we've bred them into an environment where they can't even be mothers to their own babies because you gotta go in there and milk them and scare them, and then you have this yearling, where's his mother? And you're upset that the yearling is drinking the milk from the mother who just had the calf? Did you separate the yearling from his mother? Did he not get to suckle on his mother enough?
You're saying a 9-month-old baby wants to drink from mother's breast milk.
But
That's
and
weird.
you're upset, and you are a 40-something-year-old adult drinking the breast milk of a cow that doesn't belong to you because you're not a cow.
Right? She would dry her up. So other animals will drink the milk of the cow if you don't separate her, and she can reject the calf. So the reason they are separated is not because people are so mean and we want to steal their milk. These animals are bred.
But you are.
Wrong. Factually incorrect. The reason calves are separated from mothers is because humans want to take the milk and sell it to other humans.
It's not because you care about the cow, because otherwise you wouldn't be eating them.
Is this the calf that you're going to butcher in a year, according to your Instagram? You really care about this calf, right? Because you're going to slit his throat?
Bred to produce 3 to 4 times more milk than a conventional cow. Right? So non-dairy cows do not produce very much milk, yet dairy cows produce quite a bit of milk, a lot extra.
Oh.
I wonder why they do that. They were just evolved that way from nature.
And if they are producing so much more milk, so much extra milk, then what is wrong with a yearling having a little bit of milk?
It's almost like we artificially and forcefully bred these animals to be what we want them to be. So that we want milk, we're going to breed these animals into these creatures that produce an exorbitant amount of milk, and we're going to exploit them for a short period of time until that milk production slows, and then we're going to slit their throat. And then we're going to breed these other animals for meat, we're going to breed these other animals for leather, we're going to breed these other animals for other purposes. We do this all the time. These aren't natural animals. We made them this way, by your own admission.
That calf is not able to consume even half of the milk that the mother produces. Right? So this guy doesn't know what he's talking about, has no idea that we separate the calf so that that calf can live. For
a little while.
For a little while, because you just said in your Instagram that I don't know if it's the same calf, but a calf will die by end of year.
You want that calf to live, right, Tristan? It's a good cow caretaker, this gentleman.
And again, you're talking about the way you do things. Actually, that's a point that I wanted to bring up. If he claims to be doing things differently from the way that they are done in the rest of the world, why is he so triggered?
I don't know.
If you claim to be doing things right.
Yeah, you're doing it the right way, right?
We separate the calf so that we make sure that that calf can grow up healthy and can get enough milk. Now, he talks about artificial insemination. Now, artificial insemination is not done everywhere. Here where we live, up in the mountains of Ecuador, artificial insemination is a little bit more rare. There are people who do artificially inseminate their cattle, but it's pretty rare. Ours.
Wait, hold on, it's pretty rare? Again, in the rest of the world, it is standard industry practice to forcefully inseminate a cow to keep her pregnant so she can continue to produce milk. Because a cow will produce milk only when she is pregnant. A cow produces milk not because she is a cow, but because she is a mother. And she will produce milk after she gives birth to feed her baby, and eventually she dries up, at which point she is re-impregnated because farmers need her to keep producing milk so she can be profitable. This is simple economics.
We're not artificially inseminated, but the reason that big producers very often artificially inseminate their cattle, and small family farms do the same very often, is because cows can actually...
Hold on, very often, but it's extremely rare. Big producers do it, and small family farms do it very often, but it's extremely rare.
Okay.
incur injuries during breeding. You ever seen a bull? You ever seen how freaking massive and violent bulls can be? Well, the breeding process, unlike the human breeding process, can be very violent, can be very destructive, and the cows can get injured. Major injuries and even death can occur from it.
Again, isn't that funny that we've bred cows to the point where they can't even have sex?
Which is a normal, natural part of being an animal on planet Earth. We do the same thing with turkeys. Turkeys are so big now, they can't actually mate. It's almost like something weird happens when you breed these male bulls for their semen, and you breed them to be high in testosterone. It's almost like something happens to them. Kind of like when you breed a female cow for her milk, and she produces more and more and more and more and more milk. It's almost like something weird happens to them. It's almost like we f***ed with them, and now they're different.
This dude is completely disconnected from the process of the production of food. He talks...
I feel like Tristan is completely disconnected from the process of the production of food because he doesn't seem to understand that to provide 7.5 billion human beings with meat and dairy, it has to be done a certain way, and that way is factory farming. A little 3-cow farm in Ecuador isn't going to supply everyone with dairy and meat. And if your next argument is going to be, well, then everyone should just become a farmer, we don't want to all become farmers. That's the beauty of society. We don't all want to be doctors. We don't all want to be dentists. We don't all want to be mechanics. We specialize. That's why vegans respect farmers. We need farmers. We need people to farm food for us all to eat.
Most people live in your, apartment building, or some people like get into growing vertically and whatnot. But for the most part, we just want to buy it and support farmers because that's their work. That's what they do.
He talks about in his Vanity Fair article here how he'll crush bags of chips, right? How it's all good. He tries to eat healthy, but then he steps outside for a cigarette after guilt-tripping the guy who's interviewing him about not being vegan. Completely disconnected.
Smoking cigarettes is completely unrelated to veganism.
Veganism is not about health. Veganism is an ethical lifestyle. So to be vegan means that you're opposed to the exploitation of animals insofar as is possible and practicable. Now, if you want to be healthy, it's up to you. But veganism is not a diet. It's not about health.
And if it's worth anything, as of October of last year, he is trying to quit smoking. He's actually trying to get better at something that he knows is bad for him.
Completely hypocritical and complete nonsense.
And I think we fear the idea of personal change because we think that we have to sacrifice something to give something up. But human beings at our best are so inventive and creative and ingenious. And I think that when we use love and compassion
Crazy
as our
eyes, right?
principles, we can create.
What's your thing with his eyes? Again, just cheap ways of diminishing someone. People, not everyone likes the way you look. Not everyone likes the way we look. That's completely unrelated to the message that we are spreading. Just because you don't like his crazy eyes, so what? You know what? His crazy eyes might have gotten him an Oscar.
Develop and implement systems of change that are beneficial to all sentient beings and to the environment.
So there you go. So systems of change that are beneficial to all sentient beings. Oh, we're so creative. You're not going to have to sacrifice. You can just eat the Beyond Burgers. You can eat the Impossible Burgers. You can eat the George Monbiot and BBC promoted lab-grown industrial slop that Lord Birkenhead wrote about 100 years ago in his Cosmopolitan article, in his social engineering article, predicting the future 100 years ahead.
Well, as lovely as yet another conspiracy theory is, it's not lab-grown slop, it's actual animal flesh that's been cloned in a lab. That's what lab-grown meat is.
Yeah.
It's real meat, real skeletal tissue, real fat tissue, cloned from a real animal. So it is identical to the, for example, the group 2A carcinogens that Primal Edge Health feeds to his children. The World Health Organization has released this statement. Now, I know he'll probably say that's a conspiracy. Right? The World Health Organization, they don't know what they're talking about. Same with the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, the largest body of health professionals in the world, and they aren't vegan, releasing a peer-reviewed statement in 2016 saying that well-planned plant-based diets, 100% plant-based diets, are perfectly adequate for all stages of life. And yet Tristan is here saying that animal foods are the only necessary foods, all over his Instagram page.
Right? I gotta shut up. Let's listen to the rest of this.
Now, I've been a scoundrel in my life. I've been selfish. I've been cruel at times, hard to work with, and ungrateful. But so many of you in this room have given me a second chance.
He says he's hard to work with. He's been a scoundrel. It's so funny because the movie that he's getting an award for right now, the people who worked on this film said he was incredibly difficult to work with. It was so hard to work with. The people who were doing his makeup, the crews, said this dude is near impossible to work with. Completely self-absorbed, completely narcissistic. Yet he's here virtue signaling about, oh, I bettered myself. I used to be bad. Now I'm good. Come on, buddy.
I think that's when we're at our best.
Again,
What does that have anything to do with veganism?
a lot of mind reading there.
A lot
I
of
suppose.
people are difficult to work with. Meat eaters are difficult to work with. Christians are difficult to work with. It's irrelevant. People can be difficult to work with. Mm-hmm. And I have been on set, and I have seen actors who are difficult to work with.
We've also seen actors that are a delight to work with.
Yeah.
You can be vegan and be a delight to work with. You can be vegan and be difficult to work with.
You know what would be worse if someone was difficult to work with and didn't admit it? Self-awareness. It's admirable. Admitting that you're wrong.
Mm-hmm.
When we support each other, not when we cancel each other out for past mistakes, but when we help each other to grow, when we educate each other, when we just, when he was 17, my brother wrote this lyric. He said, "Run to the rescue with love, and peace will follow." Thank you.
So that's the end of the speech. Right? That's the end of it. Something that's really important to understand about mass media, mass communications, television, and Hollywood is that it's not just there for entertainment. These films, these television shows, these magazines, these are not just...
What's with the music creeping in? Like that music? We should creep in some of our own music. Does this make it sound more dramatic, what we're saying? About not needlessly murdering other animals, because it's kind of a dick move.
They're not just there to entertain us. These are there to do more. These are there for social engineering purposes and for actually formulating your worldview. When you see persistent, repetitive images of children being shown to you in unwholesome ways, right? Hypersexualization at a young age. When you're repeatedly shown this, you do start to take on some of these traits.
Oh, you mean like the Got Milk ads?
Mm-hmm.
Like all the
billboards for McDonald's.
I've worked in commercials, and next to Big Pharma, fast food is the most common ad you will see on television, followed by cars.
We hear that a lot too from anti-vegans. They'll say, hey, this is vegan propaganda. Vegans putting out this message. Vegans are trying to influence other people. You drive down the road, it's cheeseburger, chicken nuggets, milk, cheese. There's ads. There's just ads for cheese. Not a specific brand of cheese.
Just cheese.
Just California cheese.
We got used to them so you don't see them anymore. But we see them all the time because, you know, now that we're vegan, you notice that.
Where's the potato lobby? Like, do you ever see an ad on TV, like beef? It's what's for dinner. It's just an advertisement for beef.
Yeah.
Not a brand of beef.
No,
you never
because
see
there's a good amount of money tied into it.
You never see potatoes. Eat some potatoes.
Anybody who's raised kids sees that when your kids get into a new environment with new social influences, they very, very quickly will take on the mannerisms of the behavior and the worldview of the people that they're surrounded with, right? Which is why we're always advocating for families, right? For building real communities and disconnecting from this nonsense degeneracy that's being pumped at us through mass media, through television, and now through social media as well. Now, River Phoenix is Joaquin Phoenix's brother. He actually died in front of his brother in front of his brother Joaquin. Horrible, terrible accident happened at the aptly named Viper Room, which was owned by Johnny Depp at the time. So his brother was one of these kids that was actually put in very sketchy situations, let's say, at a very, very young age, right? They were obviously being handled by producers, agents, all these people who were helping them get jobs, and of course their parents, who raised them in a sex cult run by a guy named David Berg. Their parents were no strangers to, let's just say, childhood abuse, which was rampant in the Children of God cult, which is now called the Family International. So River Phoenix actually was hypersexualized at a very young age, became kind of a star, sex symbol, before he was even 18 years old.
What is this? Joaquin Phoenix made a speech saying dairy farming is immoral. Now we're talking about River Phoenix being hypersexualized at a young age.
So, I mean, what does this have to do with anything that Joaquin said? In fact, isn't this sad? Isn't it sad that he watched his brother die, and here you are tearing him down for actually trying to spread a positive message?
River was actually a big influence on Joaquin's so-called activism. River used to wear PETA shirts. He used to be very proud that they were vegan. But it's really sad to see kind of River later in his life as he was getting into drugs, and the symptoms of malnourishment are there. Right? Now, of course, the heroin and cocaine use, speed use, this can...
Hold on.
Oh my goodness.
So, the symptoms of malnourishment were there, and of course the heroin and the drugs had something to do. Dude, that has a lot to do with it. That has a lot to do with it. Guess what? People on drugs don't eat well. That's actually a symptom of drug addiction.
This just feels like a really low blow. He's like insulting Joaquin Phoenix's dead brother. His brother who, yes, may have inspired him to stop wearing wool, stop wearing fur, stop wearing leather, stop contributing to the needless torture and suffering and mutilation and violence that is rampant throughout the world, especially on Tristan's farm, for an unnecessary purpose.
Can manifest kind of the same physical symptoms as malnutrition, like we see in vegan populations, but...
Okay, again, vegan populations. Veganism is an ethical lifestyle. It's an ethical belief that animals should not be harmed needlessly.
It's not a diet.
That makes about as much sense as saying we see a lot of malnutrition in anti-slavery populations.
Or in feminist populations.
In anti-homophobic populations, we see a certain amount of malnutrition. What is a vegan diet, Tristan? What is that? It makes no sense.
It's sad to see these kids traumatized and abused from such a young age and being blasted out there for kids now to look up to emulate. Right now, the River Phoenix phenomenon, it's pretty old. This is when I was like 5, 6 years old that this all went down. But these things imprint on people's consciousness. Like, I remember when I was a kid watching the film Stand By Me and hearing the story about River Phoenix and just, thinking how sad this was. And we see this kind of repeating over and over again in Hollywood, right? Going all the way back to like James Dean, the live fast, die young mentality that gets promoted for specific reasons. For specific reasons of social engineering, right? Keeping us in a perpetual state of adolescence and of childhood, making us all feel like we're broken and abused and afraid. This has utility for social engineering and for behavior modification and control. There's a reason why they turn all these Disney starlets into essentially prostitutes ritualistically through media. The Marilyn Monroe back in the day, Jane Mansfield, modern day. You've got Madonna, then you had Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera, then Hilary Duff, and Miley Cyrus. Right? Several of the ones that I just named, Miley Cyrus being a so-called vegan activist as well. We are given these images, we are given these idols for a reason. And what we consume physically is pretty dang important, but also
Not what, who, and also 1.5 minutes or 2 maybe dedicated to even talking about dairy in your nearly 20-minute video. The entire video is tearing down Joaquin Phoenix for things that have nothing to do with what he said. You're tearing him down because of what he said, but not even coming close to justifying your own actions and the actions of millions of people around the world when it comes to animal exploitation. So this just seems like an ad hominem attack.
Yeah.
In all.
Very bizarre.
And
Joaquin Phoenix made a speech about dairy. Miley Cyrus is hypersexualized. Okay? Well, she's also vegan. They're not related.
And there are plenty of meat eaters who are hypersexualized too.
What we consume through our eyes and our ears, with all this mass media propaganda, with all this degeneracy being pushed on us through media.
You are media. You're on YouTube. You're on Instagram. You have a website. You're selling your book and your flesh diet. So I don't understand.
This affects us. This affects us deeply and profoundly. So we reject all this nonsense. I reject Joaquin Phoenix's narrative about dairy being abusive. We drink dairy every single day. Look at this. I got a big bottle of whey right here. I've been sipping on throughout the day.
Oh, titty milk. Big boy. You're a big boy.
And with my dinner tonight, I'm going to have some fresh yogurt cheese, and it's going to be delicious. You can find more at primaledgehealth.com. Remember, you're way more than what you eat, guys. So get off the dang social media, kill your freaking television, cancel your Netflix subscription. Get out there.
And buy my book.
That's right. Buy my coaching from my website.
For $250.
Yeah.
He lives in Ecuador.
Yeah.
Do you know how far $250 goes in Ecuador?
This is
And this is so bizarre.
insane hypocrisy. You're telling people to get off of social media. You're literally on social media.
Trying to sell your
Currently selling things to customers.
And look, all down here.
Here's
Become a member. Quick start guide to carnivory. The carnivore cookbook. Coaching. Donate. Join the mailing list. Connect with us at the website, at BitChute, and Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Pinterest.
Get off that social media, kids. Get off that social media. Stop following Primal Edge Health. Oh, look what he put right here. This is not medical advice. Opinions of guests on this channel are not necessarily that of the owners. Wow. So eating a carnivore diet is not medical advice. Wow. Wow.
Create real relationships, real communities, and live your life. Forget about all these fake celebrity phonies out there pushing nonsense and virtue signaling about social justice points that they're getting for selling their souls. See you guys next time.
Oh, good.
Hold on, I want to see the rest of it. This is the prettiest part of the video.
That's Ecuador, I imagine?
The mountains of Ecuador. You can't see it. That's his website in the clouds.
PrimalEdgeHealth.com. Cancel your Netflix subscription, but don't cancel your YouTube subscription to this channel. Please keep watching my videos and buy all my shit. Well, that's
So that's it.
That's the video from Primal Edge Health.
Did it make sense to you? What do you think? Did you see the things we saw? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Tell us in the comments below. What did you think about Joaquin Phoenix's speech? I thought it was pretty great. And you know what? Whether you like it or not, Tristan and every other dairy farmer out there, he inspired many people with that speech. And milk sales will continue to drop. And we will be working our butts off on cheese and butter, believe us. And we're selling shit too, but we're admitting to it. Check it out on our Etsy store.
And if you guys want to follow our Instagram page, we are there on Instagram. You can check us out, what we're doing day to day with our stories and our posts. And of course, an enormous thank you to all of our patrons on Patreon. You guys support our activism, you support this channel, and if you guys like what we do, if you enjoy our content, if you get something out of it, please consider becoming a Patreon yourself. The link is in the description below. Bye!
Bye.
And he finishes the video with a shitty scar tissue riff with shittier drums underneath because Chad Smith sucks. I can improve upon Chad Smith's drumming.
That's an ad hominem. We don't want to go there.
I know it's an ad hominem, but it's literally a Chili Peppers song that is remixed with shittier drums.
Betty Chicken!
Betty.
Where are you going?
You going to the entry hall?
Hi, Butchie.
Okay.
Hi, Chicken.
Oh, what else did he just say?
Oh, Batunia. Are you having troubles?
Are you stuck, my chicken?
You're stuck. I'm gonna get you unstuck. Hold on.
Your world